Eric, and thanks to everybody for coming out. I can do a bit of a different presentation this time. We have a bit of a different story than probably most of the ones you'll see here at this show. So let's see how this works out. Of course, cautionary statement, geologists, we are fountains of optimism, so take care as always. Just a quick bit of something about the company. We're a copper and zinc exploration company. We're looking in Nunavut, northern Canada. Important things to note, we have no debt. We have about $1 million in cash. Our market cap is around $10 million. We have about 75 million shares out. We trade between 12 and 15 cents typically. We have a large number of very strong institutional shareholders. CDF out of the Netherlands, JP Morgan, Mackenzie out of Toronto, and Russo Asset Management, that's Warren Irwin. We have a large insider shareholder component as well. I own 2% of the company myself. Eric will be glad to know that I did buy that all in the open market or in placements, and he'd be even happier to know that I'm underwater on it, so and still buying. So what do we have? This is important. We have a very big claim block. It's over 1 million acres. That's over 400 square kilometers. And we have drill-proven, really quite robust mineralization, drill-proven near or at surface, both copper and zinc mineralization. Just some ideas of some of the copper intercepts. You're talking about 110 meters of 2.5% is one of the nice ones at Storm Copper. At Seal Zinc, you're looking at 18.8 meters of about just 10.5% zinc. So nice grade and some long intercepts. The company itself, we have really great technical expertise and focus, and we're a group with a proven discovery record. I'm not really talking about myself here. Like I'm okay, I'm not bad, but really the guy we're talking about here, we've been really lucky to be able to attract Dr. David Broughton. He's the award-winning geologist, co-discoverer of Flat Reef and Kamoa-Kakula in the Congo. Kamoa-Kakula is a giant SED-hosted copper play found by Dave and his team. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today, but that's just as well because I have a picture of him doing what a lot of people think he does. So here he is. In slightly younger days, and yeah, we always do have to have a little bit of faith, but it's not just faith because we have geology. And so what I want to do here, just quickly, I want to sort of go through what we have at Aston Bay and give you an idea of how it possibly got there, and why is Eric excited about it? Why am I excited about it? Why is David Broughton excited about this? And how do we get value for the investors out of this? So what we have, again, big belt there. You can see the scale bar. It's over 100 kilometers in length. Again, 1 million acres. We're just south of the old Polaris mine. That again, a giant world-class lead zinc mine, 21 million tons at about 14% zinc. We're on the same mineralized structural trend there, and we have multiple copper and zinc showings all up and down the trend of this belt. And it's in correlative host rocks to both Polaris and the storm or the copper showings that we have. What I want to do is just take a little look at a portion of this belt, and let's just take a look at how that might have come to be and what might be underneath there. So we're just going to build a little block model. So I've just taken that small portion of our claim block, and we're just going to spin it around a bit there, and then take a look at it in 3 dimensions, and then we'll just build up what we think was there. So how this came about 450 million years ago, there was essentially uplift along the Boothia uplift right through here, and that uplift created essentially a spine that runs north-south for about 1,000 kilometers up here, and essentially created 2 basins off on either side. And what happened, these basins is shallow sea. They filled with carbonates and some, the majority of it, flatline carbonate rocks, perhaps some more clastic rocks, sandstones, things like that, things that might have a bit more permeability. Continents change their stress regimes, things change. We went from a basin formation stress regime into something more like compression, and that caused caused some uplift and a little bit of block faulting, graben formation, some very gentle folding around, say, sometime around 378 million years ago. And now that's about 75 million years that fluids have been sitting in that basin within those sediments and forming rock. That's quite a lot of time, and in that time, they've been able to scavenge metals. So it's saline, salty fluids. You can think about your old car back in the 70s. I'm from out east, and I know back then cars didn't do too well with salt and water. It dissolves metals, and so that's a rough idea of how this happens. So these fluids scavenge metals out in the basin, and then the compression actually drives the fluids along pathways and faults. Okay. And then what can happen is these fluids can move into some of these permeable layers, these sandstones that I was talking about earlier. And if everything goes well, and if the trapping, the chemical conditions are right, you can get a really nice trap, and the metals will precipitate instead of scavenge. Okay, and so you can get some nice large deposits that way. Now those fluids will continue, some of them will continue to come up to the surface, and you can also get some, essentially like leakage. You can get some metal precipitating in the faults and in small areas near the surface. And what we think we're seeing at Storm, and we saw with the map earlier, everything we think that we're seeing at the surface is really just this leakage. It's mineralization in faults and very small permeable horizons. But really, the big story here and the big target, what we're really looking for, are these bigger copper and zinc targets that may have precipitated in some of those larger horizons that may be hidden at depth. We have this flat-lying stratigraphy. It's like a layer cake. If you don't see it in that top layer, it's very difficult to see it. You're going to have to do some good geology, good geophysics to figure out what might be there at depth. And that's our real target. That's what we're looking for. And this will be the slide that'll be in your takeaway materials. But just to give you an idea, again, no promise, of course, that anything like this is there, but these kinds of deposits, we're looking for examples of them elsewhere in the world. Again, Polaris, 21 million tons, 14% zinc. In the Congo, you have Kapushi, 60 million tons, 7% zinc, and 7% copper, 11% zinc. Kamoa-Kakula, that one is billions of tons. That's the one that Dave found just in the last few years. These things, they can be very large, and they're typically very high grade. And that's very important. As Eric said, that's what we want to find. Particularly important, we are in the Arctic. It's very important that we have, we need large and high grade there. So what's to come? Just very quickly, this past summer we did just a small amount of geologic field work and some targeting with Dave. We got Dave up on site. He's very, very excited to see the area up there, and he just loves the potential for both copper and zinc. We raised $2 million and spent all of it on a geophysical program, airborne gravity gradiometry. That is the way we're going to see through the surface to see what might be hidden at depth, and that's what's going to give us really our targets for drilling. What we're doing right now, we're actually just getting the very first results from that airborne survey back, and just yesterday morning I got the first bit. It's coming in. It's a lot of data. We flew almost halfway around the world. There's a lot of line kilometers flown there, and it's a lot of processing and reprocessing that needs to get done. Also this quarter we're going to have a 43-101 resource using the historic Kaminko drilling that was done in the 90s on the Seal deposit. Can't tell you numbers yet, but I think everybody's going to like them. It's the good grade. Size, obviously, it's not as big as Polaris, but we're certainly getting there with the grade. So a great indication of what might be hidden at depth. Next quarter, going to be doing some more interpretation with Dave Broughton back and forth with the geophysical model. Again, you have to marry that the geology with the geophysics if you really want to get those quality targets. And then we're going to be drilling next summer. So we hope to do something like 3,000 meters next summer. Maybe a bit more geophysics if required, but really the big news is the drilling next summer. So just in summary, look, we have drill confirmed high-grade outcropping copper and zinc mineralization. We're doing the exploration, and it gives us that potential to really find those large concealed copper and zinc deposits that might be at depth. I'm going to be at the booth all afternoon. I'll give you more details, things like more into the share structure and details. So drop on by, and thank you very much.